Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Glass. This movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, who previously directed The Sixth Sense, Signs, and Unbreakable. This movie stars Bruce Willis, James McAvoy, Samuel Jackson, and Sarah Paulson. Glass is the third part in a trilogy, starting with Unbreakable, and then Split, and now this third film. So it has characters from Unbreakable that are David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, Elijah Glass, played by Samuel Jackson, and Kevin and his 24 personalities called the Horde, played by James McAvoy from Split. And so ever since David Dunn figured out his powers and he's become a vigilante, he's looking for these missing girls, which leads him to Kevin. And after a brief encounter, they're captured by police. They're put into an asylum where David's reunited with Elijah Glass. And these three men are told by this specialist, played by Sarah Paulson, that all the abilities, all the things that they think they possess that puts them above others, it's actually all inside their head. I was excited going into Glass because you had these characters from different films finally together. It was like I was rewatching the Avengers all over again. These characters you never thought you'd see together in one room. You had characters from Unbreakable and Split. So it was neat to see the chemistry of these characters, how they interacted, how they spoke, heck, even how they fought. Samuel Jackson is really good as Elijah Glass. He plays the mastermind, and his characters carried over flawlessly from Unbreakable. Bruce Willis was actually a standout in this movie because ever since he did Live Free or Die Hard, every movie after that, he's kind of been asleep at the wheel. He hasn't really cared. He's just been there to collect a paycheck. James McAvoy is Kevin in the Horde. Phenomenal performance, probably the best thing in the whole movie. This time we got to see more personalities, and with them we got different accents, different mannerisms. There's even a scene where the different personalities are coming out, and they're wearing the same attire, but each personality wears the attire differently, which was really neat to see. Sarah Paulson's also in this, and she could be a good actress, but the last thing I saw her in was Ocean's 8, and even in this movie, I kind of feel like she tries to play a serious role. She tries to be convincing, but her performances always just seem eager. Like she's trying so hard to nail this role or come off this performance that she almost seems kind of desperate, and I just didn't buy her character. It was also neat to see that this film brought back characters from Split. It brought back Casey, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. It also brought back Bruce Willis's son, David Dunn's son of Joseph in Unbreakable. Also, Elijah Glass's mother. It was neat to see those characters again. There's a really cool scene where the doctor pulls up in her car and there's a shot through a window, and you see all four of these characters from different directions coming together. Other than that, and a couple scenes where each respective character comes to the aid of their respective loved one, Casey didn't need to be in this film. I understand that she was in it because the other characters were in it, and each main character needed a support or a character to go to. But other than that, she didn't need to be in this film. Aside from returning characters from Split and Unbreakable, this movie also used deleted scenes as flashbacks of David Dunn and Elijah Glass, which is really neat to see because it gave their character some fleshing out, and it made them more believable. It showed us things that we didn't get to see in the other movies, so it really made their characters more sympathetic. Alright, now to my issues with the film. First off, David Dunn, to me, was one of the main characters, but he was given screen time that kind of made him feel secondary. Now, they probably did that because the first act is supposed to be about David, second act about Kevin, and the third act about Mr. Glass. And I understand that. But David Dunn's character doesn't really arc in this movie. He's in the beginning and he's in the end, but there's a good period of time where his character isn't there. And it should have focused on all three of them equally, but it doesn't. Also, the tone of this film is very different from Unbreakable. It's not somber and serious, and it's not told really from the perspective of Mr. Glass, in the sense that the comic book aspect came from Mr. Glass. he was the one that made the comparison between his situation and David's to comic books. Now, with Glass, the times have changed so much since superhero movies have become the new norm in 2008 with Iron Man and all the Avengers and Marvel and stuff, that now comics and superheroes and stuff like that are so commonplace. They're normal, that every character in this movie is referencing comic books and superheroes, that it's really oversaturated. It's no longer something that's inside these characters' minds, but now everyone's making the comparisons. Everyone's saying, hey, you're like a superhero, you're like this character, or you're like this, mutant or supernatural person. And it takes you out of the movie. Even when the doctor is talking about comic books to Elijah's mother and David's son and Kevin's, former captive Casey, even when she's comparing them to comic books and drawing parallels, it takes you out of the movie and it's no longer serious, it's now entertaining. And the biggest issue I had with this film was the twist. Yes, M. Night Shyamalan's gotta have a twist in his movies, and this one has, you could say, 3 twists. You have a more minor twist that's like, oh my gosh, which I thought was a great reveal. But then you have the big twist that everyone's going to talk about or complain about or praise in this movie, and then you have one at the very end. The big twist that I'll just say undermines what the doctor does with these 3 men is infuriating. Because they try to do a bait and switch. I'm not going to tell you what the twist is, but because of the twist, it involves a direction that our characters are taken in, and it doesn't work. All of the work that's been put in from Unbreakable to Split to end this way in Glass, all I'm going to say is I understand now why a lot of people hated The Last Jedi. And to me, origin stories are fine, they're acceptable because you've got to show where a character starts out. However, to me, the more dire, the more serious, the more, critical and important direction you take a character, it's not backwards, but forwards. If you take a beloved character and you kill them off, or you have their story end tragically, or you take them in a direction that's like, wait, that's not like this character or this person or that event at all, there's no coming back from that. Look at Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. When you take a character who's so beloved and so important, and you make their ending or their story or their fate or their end game, a letdown, it's unforgivable. And I feel like that's what happened in this movie. The acting in this film, really good. The story, though the ending is a letdown, it is entertaining. Is it a good third part in the first act, Unbreakable, second act, Split, third part now, Glass? I don't think so. I think those 2 movies being tied together would have been fine, but you had to have a payoff, you had to have the third act. Because the movie was entertaining, but just like the other 2 movies, I feel this third act is disappointing. I'm going to give Glass a C+. The acting is good, the heart is there, the returning characters is nice, and the message is clear and understandable, I guess, but I just didn't prefer it. So, till next time, guys, see ya.